2, 1. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. It's Storytime Live. This is episode 51. It is a Tuesday, day before comic book day, unless you're a DC fan, and then it is comic book day. Good to see you. Hope everyone's having a good evening. Getting ready for bed, or maybe for another part of the world, you're just getting up. Who knows? Gotta crack a beer. I like these streams. Gives me an excuse. I don't really drink that much, but this kind of, I feel like I have an excuse. Tasty. How is everyone tonight? I need to pop out the chat so I can pay attention to it. Let's see, who was first? I'm going to guess it was Melissa, and I'm right. Congratulations, Melissa, being first. Thank you very much for coming to the stream. Getting some weird error on YouTube. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah, I guess you do hear me all right, according to my test here. YouTube. You just... I don't know. Let me see if I can refresh the page. I never... Oh, you know what? Let's try this. Bear with me. It wouldn't be an Ash on Comic stream if there weren't technical difficulties. Let's see. If anything cuts out or blows up, just type in a chat so I can tell. But I think everything should be good. I just went off of Wi-Fi here. Says it's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. You guys says you guys may receive buffering. You guys receiving buffering on your end? I'm not receiving buffering. I don't know. Let's see. Who else is in the house? Lord is here. He says hello. Maranya is third. Good to see you, Maranya. I like it when you can make it to my streams. She says, welcome, everyone. She says, are we the only ones here, Ash? No, of course not. Nola's in the house. Good to see you, Nola. Let's see. Oh, and Tehillim is here. G2C you all. It's hard to address just a bunch of hellos. It's like everyone's just saying hello, greeting each other. Eric Breen is here. Says, good evening, kids. Because remember, everyone is a kid in relation to Eric Breen. So, welcome, Eric. It's good to see you. Let's see. He says, we missed you on our Night Strangler stream. I don't know if he's talking to me or someone else in the chat. Probably someone else. I don't remember being invited to any Night Strangler stream. Ed says, I thought I was late. Glad we're on Ash time. Wow. Jerk. Ash is grabbing a beer to kick back and surprise us with the books for this episode. Yeah, I got some good books for this episode. I haven't 100% settled on what I'm going to read, but I'm pretty certain about what it's going to be. So... yeah, you guys can just be left guessing, I guess, and see how that goes. It's really weird that YouTube is still telling me there's errors. It's kind of disconcerting because it's making me, have a little bit of a, I don't know if you like self-conscious. I'm like, is this blowing up? Because you don't get any like real feedback. Let's see. Nola says, what beer are you drinking? Well, I'm drinking the same beer I've been drinking every night. Well, every stream night, that is. Modelo Especial. It's a Mexican beer. I would say it's a little bit above a Corona. It's not like a world-class beer, but it's the kind of beer, like I don't really like cheap beer, like, Budweiser or Coors or whatever. But I don't necessarily always want to buy craft beer. So when I want something that's like a quality mass market beer, this is one of the ones I go for. It's pretty good. Really refreshing on a summer day or night. It's really light beer. You can put lime in it if that's your style. Um, Tehillim says, if anything cuts out, COVID did it. No, if anything cuts out, Trump did it. Am I right or am I right? Um, Station break, technical difficulties, says Marania. Hey, I am True Skills is in the house. He says, what's up, Ash? Okay, good to see you back, buddy. Eric says, stay tuned for my temperance lecture after the stream. Oh, man. Oh, Eric. You're one of the good ones. So, speaking of temperance, I was at the grocery store the other day. Well, it was probably several weeks back, actually, when I bought this beer. And I was just browsing through all the different beers, and I was like, wow, I was kind of like, wasn't 100% sure what I was going to get. I was like, when I went down there, I was like, I really want some Modelo Especial. Then I got there, and then they had a big, they sell beer in like 15 packs now. It's like really weird. I don't know why they have that always odd. It used to be just like a 6-pack or a 12-pack. Now you get like a 15-pack, an 18-pack, 10 packs. It's like, they can make all these weird numbers. Anyways, I think it was a 15-pack of Stella Artois. That's another beer I really like. And so I was like, oh, Stella. So I was really tempted. And then right next to the Stella was some Heineken. And I was like, oh, Heineken's not bad. And it had a weird thing. It was like 3 free beers. So it was a 15-pack. They're charging you the price. I was like, 3 free beers. But then it wasn't just 3 extra Heinekens. It was 3 of their new alcohol-free Heinekens, And I was like, I'm not against, like, I used to drink alcohol-free beer once upon a time. Actually, I used to drink it when I was underage because I liked beer, but I wasn't, able to drink beer. My mother would actually buy me non-alcoholic beer. It was fine. But I was like, oh, why would you sell that with the alcoholic? Like, I get like people that want it, like I don't want the alcohol, but I like the taste of beer. I completely 100% get it. But why would you put it in with like, here's a 12-pack of regular beer, and then we're going to throw 3 non-alcoholics in it with it? Like, I don't know if you know what your target audience, kind of like when you open a DC comic, right? And it's like Batman. You're like, yeah, I'm getting my Batman. Then you open up the first page and it's like, here's a young adult novel for some silly, like, oh, it's the new Aqualad silly, like, who are you advertising to? I don't know. I'm just blabbing to fill up space, like Bendis. Oh, that's why Jimmy doesn't come around anymore. Let's see. Ed says it's fine for us. Good. My favorite beer is Labatt's Blue, says Marania, but only the real one that you get in Canada. What they sell here is weaker proof-wise. Plus, it tastes different. My old boss bought me some as a thank you once. I don't think I've ever had that. Interesting that they would sell it differently here than in Canada. I don't know. What's interesting is Corona. Corona's a Mexican beer, but it's made and bottled in Canada. So this Mexican beer company actually has Canada make it, then it gets shipped to Mexico so that they can be imported. It's so weird. Is the hottest it is the hottest import in the USA. I sold beer for 10 years for Anheuser-Busch, and we did sell Modelo. I do especially love that import. Oh, cool. See, I'm not the only one. Nolan Nerd approves, so it's good. It's really refreshing. Like, you can just guzzle it. I like a good beer like that. What I don't like, I don't know if you guys are in the audience, anyone that likes beer. Are you guys, this whole IPA kick? I don't get it. I go to the store, go to the liquor store, whatever, to get beer, and like 80% of the aisle or the shelf or the freezer, refrigerators or whatever, everything, it's just all IPAs. I'm just like, what? It's like no one drinks real beer anymore. Ash McLovin getting beer. Ash McLovin. And I was the craft beer expert for our distribution warehouse. Oh, very good. What's a good Nola? Tell me a good craft beer that is a lager. I'm very much a lager person. So I don't know if you have any favorites that are lagers that I can look out for. One of my favorites is Anchor Steam. They're most known for their Anchor Steam Porter, but they have an Anchor Steam California Lager that I really like. It's kind of hard to find, but they have when I was in Colorado, I was able to find this one called Anchor Steam Meyer Lemon, and it was essentially it was like their lager, but they had this hint of lemon in it, like barely. Oh God, it's one of the best beers I've ever had, and I can't find it. They're a really good beer company. Ronnie says, neutered beer? No thanks. If I'm going to have a beer, I want the real stuff. No busting the nuts out of a beer for me. Man, if you can't chew your beer, it's not real, right? That's what I say. No, I don't ever say that. I'm not a super beer snob. It's one of those things that I like a quality beer, but I can also drink Corona. But a lot of people like to shit on Corona, and I'm like, dude, an ice cold Corona with a wedge of lime is super refreshing. Breen says, in my day, beer was beer. Nowadays, it's all fruity this, crafty that. Get off my lawn with that. Oh, jeez. I'm betting Eric was a Coors man. He strikes me as a Coors man. Worst tasting beer ever was the mash beer that they sold, trading on the show's popularity. I didn't even know they made a mash beer. Holy crap. Is it worse than Billy beer? Because I know you know what Billy beer is, Maranya. I know. Eric knows what Billy beer is, too. That's because we've been around the block. Man. What to talk about besides beer? This is the Ash on beer. Get some Colt 45. It works every time. Yeah, but it's just not the same without Billy D. Williams. If I could chill out on the curb with Billy D drinking a Colt 45, that'd be pretty awesome. Wouldn't you say? I think so. Ronnie says, college, I drank Budweiser, Bud Light, Miller, and Miller Lite. Never had Billy beer. You never had Billy beer? What? Come on. Well, I'm disappointed now. Eric goes, I was in any beer I could get my hands on, man. That may have been my problem. Oh, yeah. I went through that phase. Fortunately, it was when I was young and underaged. I got all of my drinking done before I was legally able to drink. And I just woke up one day and I was like, this is stupid. I hate all the people I'm hanging out with. All I ever do is get drunk all the time. This is dumb. And so I just stopped drinking, and it just wasn't cool anymore to me. I'm 100% believer in like eliminating the drinking age. Just so stupid. When it had the stigma of like, ooh, we're doing something we're not supposed to do. I started drinking in high school, like when I was a freshman. It's like I think I did most of my drinking between ages 14 and 16, like just every weekend binging, just partying and drinking. And I think I woke up one day and I was probably 16, and I was like, my friends are stupid. I'm hanging around with losers. And I just didn't want to drink anymore. It wasn't like I didn't like partying and drinking so much as just that everyone I was hanging around with. So it just lost its luster for me. It was like, no, this isn't cool. The people are doing it are losers. And I didn't actually really drink again until I was 23. And I was working at In-N-Out Burger. And I was closing the place. And so it was the night shift manager guy, we were just, it was three of us, three people closed the store. And afterwards, it was like 1 or 1:30. It's getting close to last call or whatever. was in the last hour, you know, and it's like, and he was like, hey, you want to go to there's like a bar up the street. You want to go up to the bar and have a drink? It's like the three of us. And I was like, I just thought of myself. I was like, oh yeah, holy shit. I'm old enough to drink. I went through my 21st birthday, didn't drink, you know, like it just was no big deal to me. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was so weird, just like walking into a bar being like, yeah, I've been able to do this for 2 years and I haven't done it. Let's see. Another beer I like these days is Killian's Red, but I haven't had a beer in 12 plus years. All right. Eric says, can someone tell me what happened in 1990 and 91? Yes, Eric, the greatest years of comics. You missed them. I'm sorry. But that's okay, because they got back issues. Nola says, Anchor Steam is a good one. Ballast Point Lager is good, and Against the Grain Bloody Show Lager is another good one. All right, I've obviously heard Anchor Steam. I've heard Ballast Point. I didn't know they made a lager, but I guess I should have assumed if they're big enough. All I ever see is their stupid IPAs. Ballast Point must have like 15 IPAs. It's crazy. And then they have all these fruity beers. Like, oh, it's our grapefruit IPA. This is our pineapple IPA. This is our orange. And they're just like, Jesus. But I do have a buddy that is he's like, Ballast Point's my favorite beer. I've never heard of Against the Grain, though. That might be a regional thing. Anyways, hope you guys are doing good tonight. Got some comics. I'm going to go a little bit old school. Speaking of 90, 91, Eric Breen. You'll get a kick out of this. Going a little. Actually, I think Eric's going to like both comics tonight. One of the comics is actually specifically recommended to me from Eric Breen. So this is something I've been meaning to read, and I was like, you know what? I should just get off my I'll just do it on the stream. The reason you see a lot of IPAs is because hops is considered the soul of beer, and it's considered to be the most expensive ingredient with 100 different types. So it's competing steakhouses. No, the reason we see it is because hipsters. Come on, let's be real. It's one of those things that became a hipster fad, and it went out of control. And the modern day millennials, the only kind of beer they understand is IPAs. It's become like the gourmet coffee of beers. It's silly. Eric says IPA. What is that? IPA is India Pale Ale. And it used to be that it was a legitimate kind of beer. Sierra, what's the name of that company? Sierra something. Nola might know. I'm forgetting and blanking on it. But they made an IPA that was just called their IPA, India Pale Ale. And it was a pretty good beer once in a while when I wanted a hoppy beer. But these days, IPAs are just out of control. They're just stuffing as much hops as they can. Melissa says Ash likes his rich, fancy beer. No, I'm drinking Modelo right now from Mexico. Come on, Melissa. Jeez. I'm not drinking the hipster stuff. Man, I can just chug this stuff. Nola says you're right, but it's the moneymaker for breweries, so I don't doubt it, man. It's capitalism. That's the way it is. I just look forward to when the fad dies and people realize like IPAs aren't the only kind of beer. Maybe what can happen is, I think the thing is Budweiser and like all the big like Coors, all the big giant beer companies, what they need to do is start making IPAs, because then it'll make them uncool. I think that's really what it is. Like lagers are looked at as kind of like the poor man's beer, you know, like the white trash beer. I think that's part of what it is. People want to distance themselves and be like snooty and go, I don't drink that swill. You know, like, I'm telling you, man, I see people, I've gotten discussions with people like, what kind of beer you like? And if I say Corona, like literally they look at me like, like I like I said, I like eating bugs or something. They're just like, you drink Corona, you drink that's like horse piss. I'm like, oh, get real, Jesus. it's it's not like Milwaukee's best or anything. Come on. Let's see. My favorite current beer is Stewart's Root Beer. Oh yeah, Stewart's Root Beer is good. Not sweet at all. Much better than A&W and similar. Dad's Root Beer is decent too. I gotta disagree with you on the Dad's. Dad's is like imitation root beer, I think. A&W is my favorite, like, mainstream root beer. Well, I don't know. Barks is pretty good too. Between A&W and Barks, it depends. If I want more of a, like, a rooty taste, like a bite, then I want Barks. If I want more of a creamy, smooth, mellow, vanilla-like root beer, then it's A&W. But my favorite root beer is actually IBC. Eric says, any beer nuts on this stream? I was told there'd be snacks. Man, I wish I had some beer nuts right now. Sorry, buddy. I don't have any beer nuts. But I do have a helicopter flying overhead. I don't know if you can hear it. Today's opening comic is going to be something from the late 80s. This was back during my era. We talk about, comics that I loved. And then in the greatest era, the Jim Shooter era of Marvel, in my opinion, is still the greatest era of mainstream comics. These weren't exactly the deepest, most brilliantly written comics ever. I think to recognize the greatness of 80s and early 90s comics, you have to take it in a wide view and look at it in the volume of work. If you look at Spider-Man from like 200, from the 200s and the 300s, like 200 issues of Spider-Man was just all really solid stuff. I mean, and in the late 200s, you had Todd McFarlane, who you see here. Then you later on in the 300s, you'd get Eric Larson, and in the late 300s, you'd get Mark Bagley. I mean, that was just a big home run as far as art concerned. David Michelini doing the writing. Not my favorite writer ever, but very competent. And I've said this a lot of times when it comes to comic writing. There's two types of writers. There's the type of writer who's like a Chuck Dixon or someone, or a Chris Claremont, who can just write and write and write and write and write. Robert Venditti's this way too. Just keep on writing month after month after month and just keep a story going. It never gets, terrible. It may never be super great, but it's just always solid and consistent. And to be able to do that month after month after month, it's an amazing feat. And there's not a lot of writers that could really do that and excel. Like I think the names that I mentioned were some of the more notable ones. And then there's the writers who are like the ones that could sit and not write anything for a year and then come out with a 6-issue miniseries and be like, oh yeah, here's this, and then they disappear for a couple years. And that's like Frank Miller, right? Frank Miller, as everyone knows, is my favorite comic writer of all time. But he's a different kind of writer. I wouldn't say that he could compete with the likes of someone like Chuck Dixon if he just had to write month after month after month. And I'm not even talking about today. I'm talking about like in his prime. His Daredevil stuff that he did is some of the best run of comics. But that was also sort of like his beginnings, where he was just, full of ideas and exploration. And he got a lot of that out. And then afterwards, it was like, oh, and finding that inspiration again and again and again and again is a super tough thing. And you can just witness it. Just look at comic writers, not, whether it's today or any of your favorite eras. It's tough to do. And the ones that could do it were to be praised, I guess. And David Michelini is one of those to me. He's never a guy that I was like, wow, that's one of the greatest stories I ever read. It's never been like that, but I could just count on month after month after month going, oh, sweet, another fun issue. Oh, sweet, another fun issue, and just enjoying it. And yeah, anyway, so I thought I would start here. One of the beauties about old school comics, by the way, too, was the fact that they weren't meant to be picked up on issue number 1. You didn't need to reboot them time and time and time again. You could just go into the store, look on the shelves, and see like an issue like this and go, oh, that looks interesting. I want to pick it up. And you could just dive in and you could follow the story. As you're going to see here, I thought this is the beginning of Todd McFarlane's run. It's also going to be the beginning of the origins of Venom. This was just, I think, one of the most iconic story, if not the one, I'm not trying to say it's the best Marvel story ever, but it's an iconic story. And it's something I really loved. And this is a time that meant something to me in comics. And part of the reason I love comics in this era. Eric says, you have your pinky extended right now, don't you, Ash? Oh, man, if you only knew, buddy. Ronnie says, I have payday bars and white cheddar Cheez-Its. Well, someone is prepared. Ed says, whoa there, Ash. Dad's old fashioned is real root beer. No. Yeah, sure, Ed. I'm sure. Marani says, Fago Red Pop is righteous, Nola. I need to try that sometime. Eric says, oh, now you done it. Okay, so hopefully this flies off well. And you guys have enjoyed it. Hopefully this is something you haven't read in a long time. And if you haven't read it at all, then maybe this will meet your approval. Melissa, you're always asking for old classic books from the 80s and 90s. Well, here we go. Nola says, I'm drinking Fat Tire Amber and Gnarly Barley Juicifer IPA. If you run across Gnarly Barley Juicifer IPA, it's in neon purple, flat pink, and LSU gold. Jesus, that's too much information there. I think Fat Tire is really overrated. But I got to tell you, when I was living in Colorado, I got to go to the New Belgium Brewery, and they've got a couple of good beers. They have a, it's been so long now. It's something wheat. I can't remember what it is. I'll have to look it up. But that's the one to get. The New Belgium. I thought Fat Tire. Fat Tire is the big popular one that everyone, Fat Tire. I was like, really? No. Maybe it was just called Belgium wheat. Maybe. Man, I used to get growlers of that. Oh, so good. Right from the brewery. Oh, damn. If you could get... That was the thing. In the bottle, they're okay. On tap, really good. In the growlers, astounding. All right, let's get some Amazing Spider-Man. Chance Encounter. And here we go. Yonkers. High above what was, until today, a U.S. Treasury Department safe house. 9 agents, automatic weapons, sentries posted at all access points. Wonderful. I should be home before lunch. Stan Lee presents The Amazing Spider-Man. David Michelini writer, Todd McFarlane pencils, Bob McLeod inks. Hop in, Concardi. You got a date in court. Lousy murderer. Yeah, if he wasn't turning in state's evidence, they'd be strapping him in a chair that plugs in right about now. A gross miscarriage of justice, gentlemen. Allow me to rectify it. Bogey, 10 o'clock. Cha-chow, cha-chow. Ah! Not Bogey, Chance. Though I do enjoy Mr. Bogart's work on the late movie now and... Ah, Sniper. According to my helmet scanners, he's approximately 170 degrees behind me. Acid dart should disarm him quickly enough. Dumb feds. Left the keys in the car. I better save my own skin. Concardi bolting. Can't allow that. Better switch my wrist blasters to laser mode and hope that Uncle Sam's finest are tanked up with high octane. There goes the DA's case up in smoke. That's rough. Remind me to cry later. Mr. Treese? Chance here. I'm happy to report that I've won our wager. Oren Concardi won't be testifying against you. I'll be by to pick up my $10,000 momentarily. A satisfied smile blossoming beneath his pencil-thin mustache, Chance rockets south towards Manhattan, passing high over the cloisters. Buildings of ancient elegance currently serving as a backdrop for more modern beauty. In the form of fashion model Mary Jane Watson Parker. That's fabulous. Super. Just a couple more rolls. Click, click, and we can call it click, work, a wrap. That's great stuff, kid. The lens loves you. Got time for a studio shoot next week? Don't know how. I'll check with my agency. And soon. Whew. I love the work, but I'm exhausted. I can sympathize. I'm pooped from just fixing your hair all day. You do a terrific job, Sandy. Thanks. Guess I'd better give Peter a call now. Let him know I'll be late. However, as connections are made at 410 Chelsea Street, Peter and Mary Jane are busy right now, but if you'll leave a message at the tone, we'll get back to you soon. Beep. Ah, how quaint. Answering machines. I feel so old. Here's something that kids don't understand. Hi, it's me. We have a chance to get that condo on the Bedford Towers, hon. I'm going to check it out on my way home. Love you. Bye. Holy crap, this relationship is way too heterosexual and normal. Like, there's just too much wholesome, healthy male-female relations going on here. We need Joe Quesada immediately. Sorry, just cracking jokes. Boy, married life sure is an adjustment. Sometimes I feel like I'm back in school, having to report to Mom all the time. Of course, having a mom as cute as Peter does make it easier to take. Hours later, the Daily Bugle building, home of New York's crusading daily newspaper, where freelance photographer Peter Parker retrieves a recorded message. Home, love you, bye. Nuts. Problems, Peter? Sort of. Looks like I may be moving to the Bedford Towers, Robbie. What's the problem? The Bedford is the classiest building on the west side. I know. It's good for Mary Jane's image. Besides, we really do need a bigger place. Forgive me for asking, Pete, but can you afford the Bedford? Are you kidding? I can barely afford the YMCA. But I guess there are advantages to having a wife who makes more money than IBM. I, don't suppose you have any photo assignments to hand out. Sorry, Pete. Nothing's current, but I'll keep you in mind. Yeah, thanks. You can't just sit around waiting for the stories, guy. You gotta go find them. That's what made Joy Mercado top reporter in this burg. Hi, Joy. For instance, I got this tip about foreign arms being unloaded at Pier 17 tomorrow night. Congress is considering them for our military, but doesn't want domestic manufacturers getting wind of it. Unfortunately, I have an execution to cover tomorrow, but if you were to take some pics and notes, I could write the story from them and we could split the fee. Interested? Sold. And soon, in a deserted stairwell. Who am I fooling? Mary Jane making so much more than I does bother me. Otherwise, I'd never consider being Joy's stooge. And I'd take the bus like a normal person, instead of saving a few nickels by going elsewhere as the Amazing Spider-Man. Let's see. Nola says the yeast strain they use in Fat Tire is exceptional. All right, I'll have to take your word for it. I never appreciated it on the level that some people do. Nola says the art is great. Yeah, this is early McFarlane too. He just gets better. Nola says, with that new Belgian beer called Snapshot Wheat, Sunshine Wheat. That's it. Sunshine Wheat. Has like a hint of orange. Really, really, really small hint though. Sunshine Wheat. Yeah. Sunshine. I hate One More Day and I continue to call her Miss MJ Watson Parker. Yeah, everyone hates One More Day. Answering machines and landlines, says Rania. Eric says, a Marvel marriage between a man and a woman? This is an old comic. Damn, Pete, he can barely afford the YMCA. I like poor Peter. It always was better for me. I thought the story of Peter Parker barely subsisting, he probably could have succeeded more if he like devoted his mind to science and things like that. But he spends all of his like extra time helping people as Spider-Man, so he never has time to really focus on excelling. And he's always just, his normal life is always messed up, like just jumbled. I've always thought that made for the character to be more interesting. When they went and said, oh, well, he's going to be a scientist and a CEO, I just like, that just doesn't get Peter Parker at all. Nevertheless, after a short, affordable web swing to Chelsea Street, Spider-Man's spider sense assures him that no one is watching. And he drops through the rooftop skylight onto the comfortable chaos that he calls home. What a mess. This place was small even before Mary Jane moved some of her stuff in. And now, hey, what am I complaining about? MJ's been completely uprooted. She's trying to keep her career going while living out of boxes, and all I think of is me. I should do something for her to lift her spirits. Something crazy, unexpected, dumb. With apologies to that guy in Pygmalion, I think I've got it. And thus, as evening arrives, Chelsea Apartments, and a delicate hand fits a key into a Rabson deadbolt lock. Schlick. Peter, it's me. Huh? Peter! Bonsoir, madame. Your chicken McNuggets are ready. And for the dessert, haha. Zubel? Peter? I brought Sandy home to meet you. Hi. Eep. Hello there. So nice to meet her. Excuse me. Slam. Oh, Mary Jane, he is cute. Uh-huh. And good for a few laughs, too. Oh, wow. That was way too heterosexual going on here. Look at it. Women, like, getting a little hot and bothered. I don't know what's going on here. This must have been decades ago. Disney XD Spider-Man is garbage, and Dan Slott ruined Spider-Man by taking away his everymanness. Yeah. Marani says, oh dear cats. Peter is going to web all over him, Jay. Moving along. while at that moment in front of the world-famous Hearth restaurant. That was wonderful, Nicholas. So few modern men know how to treat a lady. The delight, dear Stephanie, was entirely my own. Oh, how fortunate, my wrist alarm. Beep, beep. The paging tone. Oh, pooh. I'm sorry, darling. I left instructions not to be bothered unless it was extremely important. I'll call you tomorrow. Your husband will still be in Madrid. Here, you take the limo. I'll get a taxi. I'd like to be in Riverside in 73rd in 5 minutes, my good man, but I doubt this vehicle is capable of such a feat. We want to bet? As a matter of fact, I do. Vroom! And 4.5 minutes later, at the exclusive penthouse residence of one Nicholas Powell. Win a few, lose a few. Still, the $500 I lost to that cabbie was nothing, not when compared to the pulse-quickening thrill of the gamble itself. For life is dull at best, and is made tolerable only by risk. The greater the risk, the greater the worth. The greater the very appreciation of living. That's why I never charge for my services. Rather, I wager them against my success. And that's why I originally became bleep, Chance. Code 647. Trace and contact most recent caller. Seconds pass, electricity hums, and then... So good for you to return my call, Mr. Chance. I'm Carlton Drake, and I head an organization called the Life Foundation. A certain Mr. Tree said you might be able to help us with a little problem. A $20,000 problem? My favorite kind. Where shall we meet? The evening ages, growing slowly into a full night, while in a cluttered living room on Chelsea Street. It was really great meeting you, Peter. Now I have someone to picture when Mary Jane talks about you. Just picture him with the robe on, okay, San? Well, I'll try. Listen, good luck on getting into the towers. Let me know, huh? Sure, Sandy. I'll call you next week. Good night. Now, Monsieur, what was that about? Dessert? Ah, the pretty madame has the sharp memory, na? But of course, we have something special on the menu tonight. Something just for you. It is called the Venus butterfly. Ooh, I'll take 2. Blimp. Way too much heterosexuality going on here. I don't know if I can take it. Uptown. Mr. Mr. McVeigh? The Endicott building. Aye? Where the board of directors of the Life Foundation holds a closed-door session. Am I to understand that you have the qualms concerning any choice of an concerning my choice of an operative? That I have, sir. This Chance laddie fits our needs all right, but he's a wee bit flashy for me. Our current venture could better be compromised than if too much attention was to be drawn to it. Point taken, Mr. McVeigh. But Chance comes highly recommended for his efficiency as well as his professionalism. I believe we can trust him to exercise the proper degree of, shall we say, subtlety. Tap, tap, tap. What the? Gott Himmel. Good evening. I hope you don't mind the rather non-standard entrance, but I've found that doormen and security guards can be most annoying when placed on a witness stand. Do these windows open? Your consideration is admirable. We were just discussing the need for restraint. You must be Drake. I'm Chance. So I gathered. I'll get to the point, sir. Tomorrow evening at Pier 17, a secret shipment of Euroarms will arrive. We want you to steal it for us. That's too bad. I may be a murderer, but I have my standards. I don't work for terrorists. Really? Do we look like heathens? The arms are to be used exclusively for defense, with no civilians involved. Mr. Treese will vouch for our honesty, as well as our wager of $25,000. Oh, that's different. You're on. Shroll. Miss Caputo, in the event that Chance is successful, do remember to deduct the price of the new carpet from his fee, won't you? A day passes, filled with stories to be told another time. And as a new night settles over the Hudson River, a volatile cargo is transferred from the ship to shore under the careful gaze of an elite military guard. While nearby, an unauthorized pair of eyes watches the watchers. Joy's info was right on the money. I'll wait until a few more crates have been unloaded, then take snaps of... Oh no, spider sense tingling, warning of... danger! What the... Shroud! Chaboom! Chance. So much for casual observing. Gotta web my automatic camera into position. And take more direct action. You'd think I'd read more newspapers since I'd worked for one, but I didn't even know Chance was out of jail. See web number 15. Remember when there was continuity? Look at that. Continuity. Isn't that great? I miss it. Anyway, sorry, back to the action. Looks like it's up to me to put him back. Wait a second. Did I just see that right? Eric's leaving? Right in the middle of an 80s Spider-Man comic? Man. I thought you were into back issues, Eric. I'm really disappointed. I understand, though. Getting sleepy time. You know. Even Joe Biden needs his sleep. But you have a good rest, my friend. And we'll catch you later. Ed says, gotta say, I do like the art. It fits the story very well. Yeah, it used to be, especially in the older days of Marvel, the scripts were very loose. They would write kind of like plot it out, and then the artist would sort of illustrate the story, and then they would go back and write the script on top of the art. So it was a lot different. Like today, it's mostly like the scripts are done almost like a movie style, where the writer will like tell the artist like panel by panel what to draw and how and everything, and it's different. So you felt a lot more synergy with the art because the artist was so much more involved in the actual storytelling. However, before Spider-Man can act, guess I've milked the element of surprise for all it's worth. Now for Phase 2. You appear to be the ranking officer, Captain. Allow me to explain your predicament. What my power blast is doing to that radar tower, it will next do to an ammo crate. The shrapnel alone will slaughter half your men. Unless, of course, you choose to cooperate. Cease fire! That's an order! A wise decision. West Point? All right, Julio. You may surface now. Oh, look, he's got his own sub. A submarine. Wow. Whoever's financing this operation must be loaded. And now that I think of it, maybe I can turn this into some extra money myself. I mean, I've already got shots of Chance stealing the munitions. If I let him go, then follow him and take pictures of Spider-Man getting the weapons back, I could sell 2 stories and double my paycheck. It's kind of risky, but Chance only kills people he's hired to kill, so all I should have to do is sit tight and hope nothing goes wrong. The lights, they've all gone out, but New York hasn't had a blackout in over a decade. For an explanation of this, see X Factor number 25. Holy shit, more continuity. What's going on here? Let's see. Computer Robots is in the house. He says, Ash, what do you think of DC Comics layoffs? I think Melissa Harris might be more happy with this one. Computers, and Marania as well. And Ed Brewer too, right? I'll talk about the layoffs in a bit. Let me finish the comic book. Just take it easy, Spidey. Emergency generator should kick in soon. Everything's gonna be okay as long as no one does anything. Stupid. Now's my chance. Gotta get to my rifle before... Really? You'd think they'd assume my helmet scans in infrared. Damn! What? No! Spider-Man? Moving faster than my targeting computers can track. Chance. You're mine. Slavery, Spider-Man? In this day and age? Not quite, Chance. I don't want all of you. Just the part you sit on. He just made it as an ass joke. Get it? Shot bursts and acid darts not connecting. Have to try something a bit more personal. Spack. Forgot how fast he is. Cut through my web line. Got to calm down. Stop fighting out of anger, or I might end up losing more than my temper. Sirens? Reinforcements? Sirens? An ambulance for that soldier? Have to alter the odds. Best bet is to give Spider-Man something else to worry about. Chow, chow. Acid darts at the base of that crane arm should do the trick. I'll go after him once I take care of that. Blast. Have to hit Chance with a spider tracer. Crane. Arg. Got the arm, but the ammo's still falling. Gotta swing it over the water. Whew. No explosion. The distraction succeeds. Chance is nowhere to be found. Spider-Man will search for him later. We appreciate your help, Spider-Man. Without it, this soldier might have been killed. But now, as emergency generators flood the dock with light, the man in the mask has other concerns. Yeah, but if I hadn't been so hung up on making money, he wouldn't have been wounded at all. Spider-Man broods. Midnight arrives. While at the Bendicott building, private power supplies push back the darkness, so that business might proceed as usual. A cash receipt? Mr. Drake, I doubt many banks would honor my signature. A matter of internal bookkeeping, a mere formality, if you'd be so kind. All right, for $25,000 I might as well humor... That pen was a good conductor, sir. He's out, but still alive. Good. Then the charge in the stun plate was adequately calibrated. After all, we don't want Mr. Chance dead. At least, not yet. Elsewhere, unsung heroes struggle to restore power to the greatest city on Earth. But within that city, another hero struggles with a foe he can never escape. Himself. I still can't believe what I did. That I left people in danger just to make a few extra dollars. I can't believe it either. I can't believe you thought so poorly of me. Huh? Do you really think money means that much to me? That I care how much you've got? Peter, you're what's important in my life. You make me happy, and happiness doesn't come with a price tag. I know that, but knowing something and feeling it aren't always the same thing. Then I guess we'll just have to work a little harder, huh, Tiger? Yeah, I guess we will. Epilogue. The South Bronx, where the weak beam of a fading flashlight illuminates one man's despair. Notice the down with mutants on the window at the bottom. There's that continuity again. And desire. The darkness that blankets this city is nothing, not compared to the shroud that Spider-Man pulled over me. He stole my life, shattered it, then cast it aside like yesterday's news. So it's only fitting, only fair, that I do the same to him. And I will. Oh yes. Very, very soon. Next issue. The Last Chance. And here we see the first semi-appearance of Venom. Good book. All right. How was everyone enjoying that book? That was Spider-Man 298. It's the beginning of Todd McFarlane's run, which would launch the creation of Venom through the special black suit that he got from Secret Wars. Now, remember, at the time, there was no such thing as symbiotes. The whole black suit was just an excuse to sell toys. It was like no one had thought this out. There was no planning. Todd McFarlane and David Michelinie worked together to come up with this really cool storyline that the suit was really this alien symbiote. He had previously, it had been poisoning him and so forth, leeching off him, and he had gotten rid of it. And that was it. That was sort of the whole thing of like how they went back to the original suit. That they didn't have any ideas until Todd came along to like turn it into an actual villain. And this is the storyline that tells that story. So some of you have probably read it. Others may have heard of the story, maybe, or if you have read it, it's been so many years you've forgotten it. I know I have. I haven't read the story in 25 years, or even probably longer, maybe 30 years. It's been a long time. I wasn't into Spider-Man when this came out, so I didn't get it. I didn't get into Spider-Man until the Larson run, and I had a friend who was a huge Spider-Man fan, and back then I was just like, Spider-Man, whatever, he's kind of dorky. I was more of like, I liked the 90s. Well, it wasn't the 90s yet, but I liked the more edgy edgelord characters. I liked grim and gritty. I liked serious. I was very much into like serious stuff. And Spider-Man just always seemed kind of goofy and weird to me, at least back then. And I had a conversation with him, and I was like, "Man, why is it you like Spider-Man so much?" And he's just like, "Man, Spider-Man's funny. You just read like comics, and he like when he's fighting the villains, he's always talking smack and making jokes and stuff." And I was like, "It does sound kind of entertaining. I should check it out." And it's really weird because I don't think I like hated Spider-Man because I grew up as a kid, in the late 70s and then through the 80s. So they were still showing reruns of the Spider-Man cartoon, the famous one that the song comes from, Spider-Man does, that one. That was from the 60s, I do believe. So I would as a kid, I would watch that cartoon when it came on. I remember watching the live action Spider-Man TV show, they were always fine. Like, I enjoyed watching them on TV, but when it came to buying the comics, I was like, whatever. I got X-Men, you know, X-Men, Iron Man, Thor. Um, those are my big deals. And then when Punisher finally came out, the comic, I got real big into Punisher. Um, let's see. Christopher Barker's in the house. He says, hello, everyone. So in death metal, there's a dark side Batman, but I'm supposed to be scared of a Batman who laughs. Spoilers, Christopher Barker. Spoilers. Meanwhile, I read an issue of Miles Morales where Miles gets captured and tortured. No one cares about Miles Morales. Who cares? Computer says, hi, Christopher. How are you doing, man? Feel pretty dumb for reading Death Metal 3. Why? I don't know why you'd feel dumb for reading that, but thanks for spoiling it, by the way. Appreciate it. Just came out today. I haven't even been to the comic book store. But go ahead. Just spoil away that. And by spoil away, I mean don't do that. Let's see. Ed says, I like classic Spidey pre-marriage. Ronnie says, I'm not a Spidey fan, but that was a pretty solid story. Well, I should hope so, Maranya, because that's David Michelini, who was a big writer of Iron Man during the 80s, which I'm assuming you liked. That was my era of Iron Man, too, the David Michelini Iron Man era. Although I didn't really like his Iron Man nearly as much. I think the later Spider-Man gets better. I think I like Larson Spider-Man even more than McFarlane Spider-Man, but this was just a cool story, and this is just the beginning of it. It gets more, I think, interesting when it finally comes to... This is just like a prelude story. Chance is just a throwaway villain just to have set up like, oh, Spider-Man trying to set up his life with Mary Jane and all this stuff, and then shit's gonna hit the fan. Computer Robot says, I like Spider-Man stories in marriage. Yeah, man, they made such a big deal of the Spider-Man wedding, you know, when he and Mary Jane finally got married. They made such a big deal out of it. And for years, they made it work, like, because a comic, it's one of those things that I often feel like having characters in comics get married. It's a very dangerous thing to do because it's really going to change the dynamic of the character because, you know, let's face it, being in a marriage, you now have like a lot more responsibilities, and superheroes are a lot more free-loving, kind of, I don't know, it can sully things up, and not every character can make it work. I think Superman makes it work. Obviously, Fantastic Four makes it work because they were a team anyway, and a family, the whole dynamic of Fantastic Four. And I thought Spider-Man made it work, but most characters, I don't think it works. I think in superhero, sometimes you can have like a love interest that never fully connects, such as Daredevil with Elektra or Batman with Catwoman. You can have like trysts, you can have the sexual chemistry, but it never actually, you know, going the full distance, if you will. Or characters shouldn't have love interests. Like, not every character needs to have one. And this is why I'm really worried about the Thor movies, right? Because, like, Thor just doesn't need a love interest. And Jane Foster, she never really worked for a reason. And they really forced her back in the comics so they could turn her into Thor. That was dumb. And then they put her in the movies because they had to follow the formula that every character needs a love interest. But I don't know. It's just one guy's opinion. Let's get out of this reader, shall we? Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Michelini co-plotted a lot of Bob Layton on Iron Man. Yeah, that was that around the 200s? I'd say it's around the same numbering. Well, no, they were, I think, probably about 100 issues behind. I think that's when I jumped on Iron Man, was in the 200s. The Silver Centurion armor. Remember that when that debuted? That was kind of my era of Iron Man. Let's see. Where's the big book of the evening? Oh, Eric Goes to Bed. The other book that I picked was his recommendation, and he goes to bed. That Eric Breen. Why? swear. All right, so the second book for the evening is Captain America #1. Let's see, just trying to get everything set up here so I can read it and see the chat. This is the Ed Brubaker run with Steve Epting art. Out of Time, Part 1. Let's see. Chris says, Ash, I find Miles getting tortured more compelling. What's wrong with you? I don't know. What's wrong with me? I just think Miles is not an interesting character. I think he's a token Spider-Man. I don't have room in my life for token characters. And he hasn't ever been written by anyone worthwhile. So, Saladin Ahmed, I have no faith that, I mean, he just hates America. So he's racist, bigot. He's not a good writer. Sure, I don't want to see Spider-Man, even if it's Miles Morales getting tortured. But on its surface, a character, someone being tortured there's no context. It's just like, oh, someone's being tortured. That's terrible. But it's not really compelling. It just sounds like an awful thing. So that's all I'm saying. Let's see. If Thor has to have a love interest, give him Sif. They were amazing in the classic comic runs. See, I disagree with the Sif. He doesn't need a love interest. He's Thor. He's the freaking god of thunder. He loves for battle. Thor to me always works better when they stick to the Norse mythos, and that he's a Norse god. I don't like when they try to humanize him and turn him into this simp. Like I don't know. I'm not going to go into it. Just modern Thor typically is cringe. And I guess I'm doing a lot of that from Jason Aaron. Jason Aaron ruined Thor for me. Donny Cates is doing an okay job with what's left to tell some interesting stories, and I don't hate Sif. I like the idea that Sif is in love with Thor, but it's like unrequited love, like, because Thor just doesn't notice her because he's just cares about battle and that sort of thing. So I don't know. That's kind of how I think that works for me. But again, like I said, I don't want every character. I hate this idea that like every superhero has got to have the love interest. It's like, why? Do we need every character to be a carbon copy? Like even Wonder Woman. I hate Steve Trevor. God, I hate Steve Trevor. Just, ugh. And you got the perfect excuse, like that she, ages him out. But he's got to stay around. It's like, oh, just. Anyways, that's just my opinions. You don't have to agree. Everyone likes, different strokes for different folks. Christopher Bark says, I found it interesting when Peter had his own company that rivaled Stark Industries in the worldwide, I think. I commented on that earlier, and I totally think differently. I think Peter's much more interesting as the character whose life is falling apart constantly. He can't save himself. He can only save other people. Turning him into a Tony Stark Jr. is not interesting to me, and it defies the whole concept of what makes Spider-Man work as a recipe, if you will, in my opinion. Silver Centurion armor was right at the end of the first Armor Wars. Yeah. I think I jumped in actually like right before 200, like the 190s, now that I'm remembering. But it's, I think because I bought issues going backwards too. Iron Man was fun. Ed says cover's okay. Jimmy says Jason Aaron did Thor perfectly bad. Marania says ouch on that cover. His right leg is a stub, badly drawn. It should have reach his knee, even in perspective. No, his leg is like shooting straight back, and then at the knee, it's bent upwards, so you can't see it because it's behind his body. I think maybe it's just like an optical illusion for you, so this looks weird. Yeah, because you can look at it and go, oh, it does look like a stub. Anyways, let's get on with the comic. This one's for Eric, even though Eric's not here. That's what he does to me. 5 years ago, Russia, near the Kazakhstan border. We caught this one trying to breach a perimeter fence to the north, General Lukin. What is... The neuroblasters took him down just as expected. Forgive the interruption, Air Skull. This will only take a moment, and then we can get on to our business. Don't apologize, General. I'm always happy to wait when entertainment is provided. Keep your satisfaction to yourself, sadist. What I do here, I take no joy in. So, even after the fall, the Red Room still produces men such as yourself? I would have thought that time was long past. Did they tell you what happened to your predecessors, Red Guardian? General Alexander Lukin, under the authority of President Yeltsin, you are hereby under arrest for abandoning your post, for theft of government secrets and weapons, and for crimes of treason against Mother Russia. Mother Russia? I'm sorry to tell you that I am all that is left of the true Mother Russia boy. Blam! Well, treat his remains as if he were one of our own. When we're finished here, I'll let them know where they can retrieve his body. Now, Air Skull, I assume you still want to examine the items I have for sale? What is this exactly? According to the schematics, it opens small windows into something called, the negative zone. This is all experimental work, or has it been field tested? Some has. What is here will work, I guarantee you that, Skull. This is the last of Comrade Karpov's facilities, and where he kept his most valuable treasures. Karpov? How would your old mentor feel about what you're doing with his inheritance? Selling KGB-developed weaponry to the highest bidder? Why do you think he left this in my hands and not his superiors? He knew if the Soviet Union were to collapse, there must still be men willing to do the right thing for the cause. I am not selling everything you see here. Most of it is leaving this sad country, along with myself and my men. I see. Then mein Gott. This can't be what it looks like. Ah, yes. I've been going over the paperwork Comrade Karpov left on this one. He was apparently very useful in the Cold War. A secret weapon of sort against the United States. How much do you want for it? Oh, I think not, Air Skull. I have my own plans for that item. Unless, of course, you would be willing to exchange it for the cosmic cube, as it is known.
The cube? What do you know about that?
We know of many things you hold close, Skull. And I would value this cosmic cube quite highly if it is what I have heard.
Oh, it is, believe me. But it's not in my possession. Even if it was, you can't think you'd have anything that would make me give it up.
Though I can see why you desire it.
You'd have the power to rebuild your socialist republic, wouldn't you?
That is one possibility among many.
Well, you can keep dreaming. My spies are combing the world for signs of it even as we speak. The cube will be mine and no one else's. And when that day comes, this whole world will know fear, General, like you've never seen.
The present day, New York City.
The cube is mine again, after so many years of searching and waiting.
And this time, it won't go to waste.
Because this time, my plans are laid out perfectly. Just a few hours more to go until midnight,
and then Paris, London, and of course Manhattan will all burn for me.
And we will harvest this death and destruction and transmute it into energy to fulfill this imperfect cosmic cube melded together from shards of the ones that were taken from me.
Or even shattered in my own hands by him.
Steve Rogers, Captain America. This night is especially for you, Rogers,
which is why I've got a ringside seat to watch this city you love die. But then, I've had months to prepare,
lying in a cell and staring at blank walls, while my spies kept you under watch. They've seen your tragedies, everything you've lost. And they've kept you distracted, too, while you try to keep your game face on. Try to act like everything is just the same as it was before.
But I know you, Rogers. I know what losing people does to you.
You're at your lowest point, and that's why you'll never see me coming this time.
How are you, Steve? Really? I'm sorry. What was the question? I said, how are you? I'm fine. Why? Because you don't seem fine. And how do I seem? Agent 13. Angry? Look, Steve. Can you just stop that? I'm getting dizzy just looking at you. I don't believe that for a second. You wouldn't get dizzy standing on a moving helicopter blade. But only you would actually try to do that. I'm sorry, Sharon, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around why my ex-girlfriend is here. Was something wrong with my annual evaluation? No, it's not like that. Look, it's not just you. S.H.I.E.L.D. wants personal liaisons for all government-funded operatives. Right. They're just starting with me and just happened to pick you for the job. Actually, I volunteered. Why? Maybe because I thought you needed someone who'd treat you like a person, not a living legend, who would pee their pants just to meet you. And maybe I thought you'd open up to me more than you did the last therapist in your annual evaluation, which I read, by the way. And you're lucky that guy didn't know you as well as I used to, or you might not have your security clearance levels right now. What's that supposed to mean? It means that S.H.I.E.L.D. may not be worried about you yet, Steve, but I am. You're worried about me. You are Sharon Carter, right? Not a life model decoy. Stop it. I'm being serious here. Your actions have been a little extreme lately. Take the incident last week, for example. Oh, it's a pretty sick 2-page spread. Last week? Those men were terrorists. They killed the driver on the B train and had his booth packed with C4 and chemical waste. They were going to set off a dirty bomb at the end of the line and turn the Coney Island into a wasteland. Get him! Hold your ground, damn it! Those are cool shots. Sniper in the helicopter. Steve throws a shield. Smash. Nice. This is really good storytelling, like good visual storytelling. I talk about this a lot when I do comic reviews and stuff about how action scenes, they shouldn't just imply that action is happening. They should tell a story of their own. And this is a really great example of how that happens. And how like Steve is dealing with these terrorists and the helicopter gun. And there's no narrative boxes, no dialogue, no nothing. It's just great visual storytelling, illustration, sequential art, all of it together to just, you don't need words. You can follow along like a movie. One of the terrorists on the train shooting at Steve as he charges him. Clocks him. The shield returns. It's always found that a little hard to believe how the shield could come back, but it's comics. He throws it again. They try to dodge out of the way, but the train's only so wide. Not yet, you don't. Steve grabs one of them. Oh, God, thank you. Don't thank me. You're just not getting off that easy. Ah! Listen to me, scum. You're going to defuse that bomb down there right now, or we're both going to ride it into the sunset. I'm fairly certain I'd survive. How about you? Reckless. Taking risks like that? We've got incredibly lucky that copter went down in the river. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't reckless. I got the job done. Yes, and you broke 4 bones in the one suspect's face, putting him into a coma while 2 others died falling from that train, one of whom landed on a minivan that caused 4 other serious injuries. Sorry. You're right, Sharon. I should have just let them blow up the train. That would have been better. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Look, Steve, I know it's different now. I know it's a new world. I'm on the front lines in it just like you are. But the man I knew didn't hit that hard unless he had to. It seems to me that ever since the Red Skull escaped last month, you've been more on edge, more violent. You know what I see when I dream, Sharon? I see the war. My war. After all this time, I still dream about foxholes in the Black Forest. I still hear the screams of terrified soldiers, smell their blood and tears. I still dream about Bucky, him and all the others I couldn't save. It hardly seems fair, after so much time has passed in the world, that in my dreams it's still 1944. Steve, it's okay. You don't have to say anything. I really am fine, Sharon. It's just been a rough couple of months. I know. Hey, listen. Did you really tell Nick Fury you wanted to join the space program? Ha! No, not exactly. I told him I'd feel guilty when I think of all those men who died trying to reach the stars, and that it should have been me taking those risks. That's what I was built for, after all. Boy, talk about carrying the weight of the world. You truly are one of a kind, Steve Rogers. Check in with you in a week or two, and you know how to get in touch with me otherwise, right? Of course. Oh, and Fury wants to know how you like your new place. It's perfect. And more importantly, it's private. I like neighbors, but I can't be putting innocent people at risk. So, no problems with the hollow wall? Not so far. Listen, Sharon, about that Coney Island thing. Has S.H.I.E.L.D. figured out who those men were yet? Yes, and that's the strange part. They're part of a branch of AIM that's supposed to be defunct, and we still have no idea what their motive was. The one who can still talk doesn't know. Says the ringleader's the guy who put him into a coma. And still no word on the skull. Not a peep. But he's got to surface sometime. And when he does, we'll get him. And I'm supposed to be the optimistic one. Safe trip. Sure. I'll just remember to stay away from elevated train tracks. You're out there somewhere, Skull. And when I find you, you think you're safe in your new secret home, in the shadow of your Brooklyn Bridge, where no one knows the quiet man down the street is really Captain America. But I'll always be able to find you, Rogers. I could put a bullet between your eyes anytime I want, and you'd never see it coming. But that would be too easy. I need to make you suffer, because you do it so well, Rogers. Suffering, I mean. And that's our destiny after all, isn't it? The two of us, locked in eternal combat down through the years, keeping each other miserable. What would we even be without the other? I suppose it's time we found out. But before you die, I promise you,
you will know suffering on a whole new level. And when I strip your life of all meaning, you'll... Deep, 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 deep. Ah, General Lucan. How amusing that you should call at this very moment. Yes, I'm afraid your sources were correct. I'm holding it as we speak, though it has barely the power to keep itself together right now. But soon, that will be put right. No, don't be a fool. I told you, once there was nothing you had to offer that. You're a powerful man. I'm well aware of that, General. But the time of your power making a difference is coming to an end. What? You're sorry I feel that way? Is that a threat, General? Maybe you're more of a fool than... Was is... Good thing, chink, chink. Oh, I missed the silencer sound here. I often do that with sound effects. Sometimes I blow past them. A little ksh. I get shot. Guy ziplining away. See the hole in the window. Pick up the cosmic cube. The phone. Mission accomplished, General. The cube is yours. The Red Skull? No. No trouble at all, sir. Got him in the crosshairs and took the shot. Yes, sir, absolutely. He's dead. Wow, what a first issue. Holy shit. That was good. That was good. I can see why Eric recommended this. No, what am I doing? I don't want to buy this. I already own this. That's the director's cut. I never understood this whole director's cut. It's not a movie. It's a comic. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, man. Are you guys still awake? Looks like we got a couple people still in the chat. That was good. I'm stoked. Captain America is one of those characters that does not get good writing very often. And Ed Brubaker is man, he does Captain America the way I like to see him written, which is like a soldier, you know, not like a spandex wearing superhero. Like he kind of is that, but he's a soldier first, and he thinks like a soldier, and he thinks like a guy who's been on the front lines, who's seen his men die. You know, like he's not the idealistic kind of like, oh, we don't ever kill anybody. Like he doesn't kill people, but as you could see, like in this book, like he let the terrorists die. Like he wasn't going out of his way to save them. Oh, I love it. Let's see. Computer Robot says, well, Wonder Woman may date other guys. However, Steve Trevor is her end game. Also, he has been with her since the very beginning. Well, yeah, I know. I know that he's been there. I'm just saying I don't like the character. I don't think it works for her. I think it actually it brings her character down. I feel like he's kind of a dead weight. Like I don't think he enhances the Wonder Woman comic. That's my opinion. Though I've never been a huge Wonder Woman aficionado. I just, all the stories I've seen with her, like even like the Wonder Woman movie, I love Chris Pine. I thought he had a really good part, like in the World War I sense, like how he kind of is a catalyst for her becoming Wonder Woman and things like that. All that was great, but to keep that going into the future, like I just don't think it works for me. Let's see. Computer Robot says, buddy, you're gonna talk about the DC layoffs.
Oh, okay. I know what the pose is, but it should be a bit longer. Wait, what? I'm lost. Oh, I see what you're. Okay, yeah, the pose of the cover. Um, well, maybe. I just think that his leg is kind of really bent backwards further. It's a debatable thing, I guess. If Peter was always having his life fall apart, I'd get bored eventually. Um, well, I don't know. I disagree. I think all the changes that they've done to Peter Parker lasted for a couple years, and then they'd have to reboot and reset and change because they all were stupid. Meanwhile, the classic concept of Peter Parker lasted for a solid 30 years, and it became the face of Marvel Comics. Like, sometimes people get bored of things, but that's when you just move on and not expect things to have to change for you. Like, oh, sometimes you just outgrow things, right? Like, it's fine. There was a time where I was a massive Transformers fan. Watch all the Transformers cartoons, watch the movie, like just love Transformers. Now I don't care. Same thing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Used to be a big Teenage Mutant Turtle guy. Now I don't really care about Teenage Mutant Turtles. It's fine. It's fine for you to not have to constantly stay interested. And I don't think that that's a sign of bad characterization, because obviously it worked for millions of people for decades. It's just a sign of individuals getting bored of it. But I think that the Spider-Man comic I read tonight was better than any Spider-Man comic has been. I don't know how long. Like, I haven't read every comic in the 21st century, but this was a better era of Spider-Man, in my opinion. But everyone has, their different takes. Jimmy says this book is great. Yeah, this was Eric Breen's recommendation, and I am loving it. Computer Robot says, be right back. This is a while ago, so I'm hoping you're back already. Ed says, nice, very menacing Red Skull. Thanks, man. It's very hard to do accents. I'm terrible at accents. I'm so terrible. And I wanted to try to give some sense of like a Nazi kind of menacing sound to him, so I just winged it as best as I could, and so I'm glad it worked on some level. I like Steve Trevor. He's better than making Wonder Woman lesbian or in love with soups. I miss classic Wonder Woman, and Steve also. Steve was the first man to set foot on Wonder Woman Island. But again, that just goes back to my saying, why does every character have to have a love interest? Wonder Woman is like a goddess. Like, again, superheroes, the reason why superheroes are superheroes is they're super heroes. These are people that live lives of ultimate sacrifice. I don't understand this idea of like we always want them to also just have normal lives too. It doesn't work. You can't have a normal life and a superhero life. I think the sacrifice of having a hero who doesn't get to sit down and have a normal life makes their sacrifice all the more meaningful. When they get to have their cake and eat it too, it's like, oh, well, superheroism is just like being a celebrity then. It's just like, hey, look, I go out and I do some things and people like me and I get, Instagram likes and I'm popular and I don't have to sacrifice anything. Is it really a heroism at this point, or is it just being a star? And that's where modern comics seems to go, and it's just annoying. And I think Wonder Woman not needing a man doesn't make her a lesbian. It's just, and I don't actually mind the Superman thing. I think Wonder Woman, Superman seems like the normal matchup. Like, Superman's the only person who really would be good enough for Wonder Woman. For the longest time, I was actually really cool with that. That's the way Frank Miller told the story in his, Millerverse or whatever, Dark Knight Returns. Like, Wonder Woman and Superman end up hooking up, and Supergirl is the product of Wonder Woman and Superman having a kid. I love that character, but I also really like the Lois Lane thing. It works too. I don't know. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to say anyone else is wrong. This is how I feel. And I don't know. I just get tired of every character. Oh, look, there's whatever. It's I beat that horse dead. Ed says, damn good, 8 out of 10. Yeah, I agree. 8 out of 10 is probably what I would give that to, Ed. Wow, 2 for 2 tonight. Another superhero I didn't care much for, but damn, the story is good. I agree, Melania. Like, a lot of, with really, really good writing can take characters that you never cared about before and turn them into a character that you love. I used to hate Captain America. I used to hate Captain America so much. I thought he was a clown. I was like, look at this guy who runs around with a shield. That's so dumb. But I didn't really understand. And then I read, my stepfather made me read. Well, he didn't make me read. He encouraged me to read. Why do I just have a white screen on? That's odd. There we go. Let's fix this. So my stepfather encouraged me to read this other Captain America story, which maybe I'll do live sometime. Let's see if I can find it. I have it. I bought it on Comixology because it's so good. I urge any one of you guys to read it. This right here, Adventures of Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. Oh yeah, I can get it super cheap. It's written by Fabian Nicieza. It's probably the best thing Fabian Nicieza's ever written. Art by Kevin Maguire. And now back when I was I think I was like 14 or 15 when this came out. My stepdad was a big DC guy. He liked the older, what I considered back then, the cornball heroes. So when the stuff on the Marvel side that he liked was stuff like Captain America and Fantastic Four. Naturally, stuff I didn't because I was edgelord. And then he showed me, he got this comic, and I looked at this cover and I was like, oh my god, that looks terrible. Like, you know, I was a teenager. And he's like, man, it's really good. You should read it. And I was like, all right. And I did. And this is like what Batman Year One did for Batman, this does for Captain America. It's the story, it's the origin story of Captain America. It's essentially Captain America like Year One. And it's so good. It's 4 issues. But they're like double sized. They're like Dark Knight Returns. They're the prestige format books. This is one of my treasured stories in comics. Absolutely love it. I urge you guys to read that story someday. Hopefully you guys liked it as much as I did. Let's see. Anyone psyched for Priest on U.S. Agent, says Ryuk. Hey, Ryuk, good to see you, buddy. I am not excited at all. And it's no diss on Priest. Nothing against Priest. It's all really a diss on Marvel. If Marvel can't do Captain America even halfway decent for years, why do I care about a U.S. Agent 5-issue miniseries? Like, for me, mainstream comics is about the long haul. It's about being able to do your characters justice and deliver them month after month after month. I don't buy comics because I want miniseries. If I just want self-contained stories, I'm going to go buy novels. They're better writers, and you get a much like beefier, deeper story, better writing, everything. Like, comics is a different medium. The strength of comics is to be able to tell these long, never-ending sagas about these characters in this mythos. This is modern, mythos. It's a purely kind of an American culture thing, and they're losing that. Miniseries can have their place. I mean, sometimes you just have a very special story you want to tell, and that's what a miniseries does. But that's all comics are becoming now, and I don't care. Like, now if it comes out and someone's like, "Oh my god, this is like the greatest story ever," like, you got to read it. Okay, then I might give it a chance. But I think it's going to come out and it's going to go down the memory hole and we're all going to forget about it. Just like 99.9% of the miniseries that Marvel chucks out at us. Christopher Priest is fine. He should have his own monthly book. Give Christopher Priest Captain America. Let's see what he could do. Let's put him on there, right? Monthly. Give him a solid artist. Let's do this. Let's quit dicking around with these B characters, C characters, and I'm sure people are going, "Oh, I'm a U.S. Agent fan." I'm like, okay, fine. But there's a reason why U.S. Agent doesn't have his own book. Like, fix the main characters first. If you don't have a solid Iron Man, a solid Spider-Man, a solid Captain America, a solid Hulk, like, if you don't have your core characters right, you don't have any business, in my opinion, trying to, like, do all these other peripheral things. I don't want to see a Morbius book. I don't want to see an Unstoppable Wasp. I don't want to see an Iceman book. Like, I don't want to see these. I want to see X-Men be good. Make that good for when all those things are humming along and they're fantastic. Then give us a spinoff. Hey, give us a U.S. Agent spinoff, spinning right out of the pages of Captain America. U.S. Agent, cool. Do that. But right now, Captain America is atrocious. It is a sin what is happening on Captain America right now. So I look at U.S. Agent and I just go, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Sorry if I got a little salty there. Computer Robot says, that's why we love you, Ash. Is that we love it. We are not afraid to share your opinions. Well, I wouldn't say I'm not afraid. I get a lot of flack, actually, for my opinions. And it kind of sucks because we live in the internet world, and especially on social media. I should not say the internet world, the social media world, where so many people are just disingenuous and insincere and fake. And so many people are just around to, like, be a popularity contest and just get the likes and the followers. And you would be surprised. Like, even, I'm not going to, like, try to point fingers at anyone specifically or whatever, but in my several years, being back on social media and the comic scene and stuff, just, I've been disappointed by quite a many people who just don't want anything to do with me anymore, or backstab me, or lie about me, or do whatever, talk shit behind my back, or whatever, because I had a salty opinion that I guess they couldn't take, or I don't know. Just, so I wouldn't say I'm not afraid to share my opinions. It's just more of, I just don't want to be disingenuous. I can't stand insincerity and fakeness. Like, it sucks having to face down and deal with people that can't handle it. But it's not worth it to me to play pretend and try to just win fake friends. Like, I guess, it's been something I've dealt with my whole life. It's tough. See, Ed says, I'm reading Tomasi's run on Superman, Wonder Woman from New 52. It's not on Comixology for free though. I would be interested in checking that out, actually. I don't know, Ed, if you took part when I did the last days of Superman from the New 52 that Tomasi did. I read the last half of the trade, and some of those stories were from the Superman, Wonder Woman, and Tomasi did a brilliant job. Like, I would love to check that out. Still, there are some characters I like better as members of a team. Captain America, Thor, Hawkeye, so on. I actually like Thor better on his own. I've never been an Avengers fan, though. Actually, to tell you the truth, the movie The Avengers sold me. I I remember watching the MCU movies, and I was a fan. Like, I love the Iron Man movie, like I was, and then Captain America, really, like, and they did the Avengers movie, and I was just like, oh, here's where it's gonna fall apart, because the Avengers is dumb. Like, the idea of the Avengers is not. It's not something built on a solid foundation. It's just like, let's throw all of our top characters together onto a team that doesn't really make any sense why they would be together, and we'll call them the Avengers, and the name doesn't even make sense. It's not even a heroic name. Like, it sounds like you're avenging people is not what heroes do. It's all weird, and it never really worked for me. But of course, I'm following the MCU, and I was like, okay, well, I got to see the Avengers. I've been following it this far, and I walked out of that theater, and I was like, holy shit, that was awesome! Like, that worked, and it made something click for me that made me appreciate the concept of the Avengers. But still, my love for these characters have all come from the solo work. Like, I was a Thor fan. When I was a kid, I collected Thor comics. I collected Iron Man comics. I wouldn't touch an Avengers comic. And I've never liked Hawkeye because I think bow and arrow characters are dumb. Even though Old Man Hawkeye was a cool story. Let's see. There's still some characters. Okay, I recall getting that first issue of Captain America as gave away from the Marvel booth at Worldcon 1989. Are you talking about the Sentinel Liberty? Man, that is such a good story. Melissa says, bye, guys. I don't know if you're still here, Melissa, but if you are, good night. Take care. Thanks for stopping by. It's always good to see you. Computer Robot says, Ash, don't go yet. You were going to talk about your opinions on the DC layoffs. Okay. Ed says, hashtag truth bombs. Melissa, you're my friend, Ash. I believe in legacy and happy personal lives. That's heroes for me. That's fair enough. You don't have to have, my likes and your likes don't have to match, right? We have different worldviews. I'm a firm believer that, some people's favorite color is blue, some people's favorite color is red. Like, there's not a right choice, right? That's the beauty. That's the real diversity. And even though I have strong opinions and I share them kind of aggressively, I don't do so in the form of judgment. I don't do so in the form of, you're stupid if you don't like this. Please don't ever take it that way. This is just my strong opinions. And the reason I think I'm so strong on it is because if my opinion is ever going to change, I want to face an equally strong opinion, to the contrary. I want someone to sell me on it. And, the reason I love that Captain America Sentinel Liberty book that I was telling you about is because I once had such a strong negative, I was like, this is stupid. Captain America's, I made my arguments, and then my stepfather was like, whatever, have you tried this, and I was like, well, no, and I had to kind of get over these hurdles, and, obviously experience is the best argument. And he made me experience things, and I was like, wow, I now know things that I didn't. And now I'm sold on something that I wouldn't have been perhaps if I didn't. I don't know. Anyways, that's just why I make the arguments I do. So I hope no one ever takes it as hostile or judgmental. It's never supposed to be that way. It's just my personal taste. And like I said, everyone's got different favorite colors. There's no right or wrong. Some people like romance, some people like action, some people like horror, some people like slice of life. Nothing about it is wrong, just because I blend certain genres. I just try to share what I feel and why I feel that way. And maybe you'll see that perspective and say, hey, that's something I relate to. Or you'll listen to it and go, I totally can't relate at all. Ash is off his rocker. And that's fine. Ed says, what a clickbait title. And a question mark. Ed says, as a laid off DC or Big Two creator, I'd go to the Indiegogo route if no one was hiring. The model has been proven to work. All right. So we'll wrap up tonight with the whole DC layoffs thing. Now, I haven't been digging in deep on this because I'm not a big drama type of guy. I pay attention to the news when it comes out. I usually kind of let it formulate and the picture to come in clearly instead of just jumping to the conclusions. Yesterday, when this was all dropping, it was a lot of rumors and hearsay and all this stuff. And I just, like I said, I just kind of wait until it all comes clear. Turns out quite a bit of people have been laid off. I'm still not certain as who, but I do know it was a lot of editorial at DC, including Bob Harras, apparently. Bob Harras has been editor-in-chief of DC Comics for, as far as I know, 20 plus years. That is an incredibly long time to be in the position of editor-in-chief. Like, it's almost unheard of. It's really kind of about time. It's one of those things. Bob Harras was a bad editor-in-chief at Marvel. He kind of drove X-Men into the ground. I think he's the reason why X-Men has been shit ever since. I think he is the man that personally destroyed X-Men. I think he's the man that we have to blame for losing Chris Claremont. He killed perhaps the greatest comic phenomenon that ever was and ever will be. I don't think we'll ever see a comic phenomenon what Uncanny X-Men was. And Bob Harras killed it, all for quick numbers. And he forced Chris Claremont into retirement, which just is mind-boggling. The guy who, it's like forcing George Lucas into retirement while he's making Star Wars. Like, you're just, what are you doing? Like, so he's over at DC. He's always taken, I don't want to say a back seat, but DC runs their business differently. You know, like where Marvel, the editor-in-chief is always on the forefront, right? It's like, yeah, like whenever you talk about what's going on at Marvel and stuff like that, it's like, it's all being driven. The editor-in-chief is like the face of the company. Where at DC, it's more of like the publisher we talk about. You know, we talked about Dan Didio, we talk about Jim Lee, but the editor-in-chief, no one talks about Bob Harras. So it's very difficult to see, like, well, what's happening are these things that are happening in DC? Like, oh, did New 52? Everyone's like, oh, yeah, you know, Dan Didio was at fault and did all this, but it's like, wait a second. Why does no one ever point fingers at Bob Harras? He is the editor-in-chief after all. You know, like when DC canceled Vertigo, why wasn't Bob Harras ever factored in? Like, he is the editor-in-chief. It is one of an editorial division of it. It just doesn't make sense that he was never get talked about. So I believe that his number just came up. I believe that AT&T, it bought Warner Brothers. And this is a lot of speculation on my part, but from what I'm observing, it sounds very much like this is a massive consolidation move. You've got two big corporations with Warner Brothers and AT&T, and when you merge together, you get a lot of redundant positions. Part of the reasons to merge is so that you can cut a lot of that cost. And plus, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, let's face it, comics have been failing for many years. Many years. I don't think they ever truly recovered from the crash in the 90s. They've been on life support ever since, but the problem is the direct market is dying. And the primary way that comics are sold, in fact, almost entirely they're sold, is through the direct market. So as comic book stores close, and they are closing like dominoes falling during COVID, how do comic companies sell their comics? They need these stores to sell. It's kind of like gasoline, right? You got these big companies like Exxon and all this stuff, like, you know, British Petroleum. That's great, but you need the gas stations to deliver the gas to, you know, people filling. Like, without the gas stations, they can't sell the product to the people. Now, of course, that's a huge industry. It's not, you know, apples to apples. But it relates in the idea that you need that delivery. Without comic book stores, DC can't get comics to the people. Now, they can sell through Amazon, right? So you can get, but almost no one buys comics through Amazon. They can sell digitally, but almost no one buys comics digitally. So there's a big problem. Now, with graphic novels and things like that, they can sell in bookstores, Barnes and Noble, things like that. And that's kind of been keeping the comic industry afloat because those avenues have much bigger distribution models. They reach more people. I mean, there's way more Barnes and Nobles than there are comic book stores. And so, you know, those types of things can sell. But the problem is those books don't exist. Trade paperbacks don't exist without floppies. So we're in a really weird situation right now. Plus, AT&T is like $20 billion, I'm sorry, in debt. AT&T is massive debt. It's crazy. Now, most people speculated that DC Comics wouldn't be really involved much in that because in the greater scheme of things, DC is like a drop in the ocean, right? Like the amount of money that DC brings in and the amount of money that DC spends is pennies compared to what's on normal, AT&T's expenditures, because AT&T is dealing much bigger business. DC's printing a little bit of comics over here in the corner. It might as well be a hobby. But the fact of the matter is still is spending money. And when you got people who are just paid to be bean counters and they're paid to cut spending and they're paid to manage expenses and things like that, that's their job. They need to justify their job because they don't want to get fired. My speculation is they're looking at that and going, hey, we're losing money. I can cut costs over here. And I can send a report in that shows I saved the company X amount of dollars. And I'll get praise for it. And life will go on, because who really cares if DC is selling 70 titles a month or 20 titles a month? The reason why AT&T cares about DC isn't because of how many comics they sell. It's about keeping that IP farm. It's about being able to make Superman movies and Batman movies and TV shows and all these different things. And if DC's making half as many comics, I don't think in their eyes it's going to be that big of a deal. So I think they're just trimming the fat. That's what I think. I think there's been a lot of people over there that's been there for a long time. I also think DC is in a big chaotic mess ever since Jeanette Kahn left. It's been unstable. DC had to fight for their life back in the 70s, and Jeanette Kahn came in. She stepped in and she turned that company into a success. Like she brought order. She was kind of like the Jim Shooter for DC. Obviously she's a whole different animal, but what Jim Shooter did to Marvel, Jeanette did kind of similar did to DC. And Jeanette stepped down 2 years ago. And when she stepped down, Jeff Johns followed. Jeff Johns was the creative spirit at DC. Jeff Johns was kind of like, in many ways, a modern incarnation of like Stan Lee, what Stan Lee was to Marvel back in the 60s. I believe Jeff Johns was a modern visionary for DC, shaping the creative culture and the creative vision for what DC Comics should be that no one else at DC had. And when he's like, well, Jeanette's not here, and I don't want to, for whatever reason, he was tied to that and was like, fuck it, I don't want to be a part of this. And so he stepped down. And when he left DC, he went off and formed his own company. And that was one of the biggest mistakes. DC did not try to keep him. And Dan Didio, from what I understand, had a kind of this uneasy rivalry with Jeff, and probably was like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Like, he was probably really cool with that. And DC lost two of the best things they had going, from a business standpoint, a creative standpoint. It just killed the company. I mean, it's what happened to Marvel. When Marvel lost Stan and Jim Shooter, similar idea. Stan was a creative visionary, of Marvel. Jim Shooter was the business guy that ran the ship and made it all work. And in the 90s, gone. and you could see, and it wasn't a few years later, Marvel went bankrupt. So I don't know. I when you get into the big corporate world like this of at these levels, everything is so numbers driven. It's so it's so faceless. Like I said, it's just numbers driven. So that's my speculation. You wanted me to talk about what's going on over there. Like I said, I don't have insider knowledge, but based on what I've seen, based on what I've heard people talk about, that's my speculation. I don't think it's any sort of big drama thing like, oh my God, someone did something improper and it got, it's just businesses get absorbed, people get laid off. I'm kind of surprised it didn't happen sooner, to be honest. But COVID is, we're in a crazy world, man. I'm telling you, especially in the entertainment industry, we are going to see massive changes. I don't think movies are coming back. We keep talking about like, oh, these movies are getting pushed back. Da, da, da. I don't think they're coming back. I am seriously believing it's possible that they'll come back, but I'm of the opinion that we're not going to have movie theaters anymore. The 5 months of lockdown. These companies like AMC Theaters has like 10,000 theaters. Imagine the upkeep cost of millions and millions and millions of dollars to keep these buildings going, keeping people on payrolls and things like that. Just you're no business, zero. There's no reason to come back. Like it's dead. And I think the surrounding industry, the movie producers, Hollywood, they're already structuring their business on how to sell movies without theaters. And once they've tailored their business to sell movies without theaters, now theaters are needed even less. So I'm foreseeing the day of movie release, theatrical movies disappearing, and everything's going to be made for TV. And I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, I don't know, those are all just opinions. I hope not. I hope things get better, but it's looking pretty grim. So I guess hopefully that was a satisfactory answer. It is late. Thank you everyone for joining me. For those of you that are still here, thank you for hearing those comics. Those were 2 fun comics. I will be continuing them Thursday. We'll be reading Amazing Spider-Man 199 and Captain America #2 from Brubaker. I'm looking forward to that. Hope to see you all there. Remember, today now, if it's now Wednesday, is a new comic book day. I hope you guys get something good. I'm looking forward to getting to the comic store. I haven't been there in 2 weeks. So I will see you then.